Alrighty, so page 255 in math, and what we are learning is how to convert measures to find a perimeter. Now, I mentioned this briefly before that when we're finding a perimeter of something, and we've given you the formula, but if the sides are different measures, then you have to have the same measure. I said, so for example, if something it's in feet lengthwise, but then width, it's in inches, you have to have a common measure before you can work out the problem, before you can find the perimeter. So let's read what it says on page 255. When finding the perimeter of a rectangle, both dimensions, so the length and the width, must be the same unit. So the units are like feet, inches, okay, the yards, feet, miles. It has to be the same. So what we have to do is convert them all into the same measure. There's two different ways to do this. Now, so for example, we have the example on the page is you have a rectangle, right? And my writing is terrible, ignore that. But we have part of it is feet, and then the other part is feet and inches. So what you have to do is convert the 3 feet and 6 inches into all just feet. So you can either change them all into feet or change it all into inches. So we're going to show you how to do both of that. So remember, first thing first is your formula. Find what formula you're using. To find the perimeter of a rectangle, it is P equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. That's the formula you always use. So you want to find the perimeter of the rectangle. And it says, it has already told you that the length is 5 feet. And the width is 3 feet and 6 inches. Now we have to change that to all just feet. Simplest way to do that is you have 3 feet and 6 inches, so you make that into a fraction. So 6 inches is how much of feet? So you do 6 over 12, because there's 12 inches in a feet. So you have 6 out of 12 inches. Well, then you reduce, okay? You want to make it as small as possible. So 6 goes into 6 once, 6 goes into 12 2 times. So that's actually 1/2. So now you have 5 feet by 3.5 feet. So you've changed everything to feet now just by changing it into a fraction. So anytime that's the case, if it's inches, and you want it to be feet, there's 12 inches in a foot. So you make it a fraction, 6 over 12, and then you reduce. So now we have 5 feet and 3.5 feet. So now we can use our formula. So 2 times the length, 5 feet is the length. So 2 times 5, put parentheses around it, plus 2 times 3.5. And you work it out. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 3.5. Now some of this you'd have to do a little bit more complicated, but this is easy because 2 times 3 is 6. But then if you have 2 times 1/2, all right, if you have 1/2 and 1/2, what do you actually have? A whole. So 2 times 1/2 equals 1. So it's 6 plus 1, so that makes it 7. Then you add these two together. 2 plus 7 equals 17. So your perimeter equals 17 feet. And that would be how you would find the perimeter. But the first thing you have to do is change your inches into feet by making it into a fraction. Now, another way you could have done this is by changing all the feet into inches. If I wanted to find how many inches instead of how many feet, I would have changed it into inches, all into inches. The way I would have done this, okay, is you have 42 inches by 60. So you multiply 5 times 12, because you wanted how many inches are in a feet. There's 12 inches in a feet. And if you had 5 feet, remember? And 3 feet and 6 inches. So if you're making it all inches, you do 5 times 12, because there's 12 inches in a feet, and you have 5 of them, which is 60. And then you have, hold on, yeah, 5 times 12. And then you would do 3 times 12, because you have 3 feet and then there's 12 inches. So times 3. And then plus 6, because you have the extra 6 inches there. That would be 42. So now you have, then you do your formula. 2 times length, which is 60 inches, plus 2 times the width, which is 42 inches. And work it out. 2 times 60 is 120. Make sure you say inches. You want to know what measurement it is. Plus 2 times 42, which is 84 inches. And then you add them together. So 120 plus 84, 910, is 204 inches. Okay, so you have 204 inches, and then if you wanted to make that into feet, you know that there are 12 inches in a foot, so you would divide that by 12. 12 goes into 21s, minus 12, 8, 9, 10, bring down a 4. 12 goes into 84. And then you would try it out. Sometimes you have to guess a little bit. Let's do 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. 84. So you have P equals, let me erase some of this here. P equals 17 feet, or 204 inches. It's both the same answer. So determining how you do that is going to be how the instructions tell you to do it. If it tells you to make it all into this lesser measurement, then you would do that. If it just says to do it into the larger measurement, then you would do that. So you just have to be sure that you follow instructions there. So that is how you do it. But the important thing is, however you do it, you have to have the same measurement in order to do it. You can't do it with different measurements. So let's go ahead and do the class practice A. We'll do that one together, okay? So A is 7 feet and 3 inches by 8 feet. Now, are we going to change the feet into inches or the inches into feet? Let's look at the directions. It says convert to the greater unit before finding the perimeter. The greater unit is the bigger one, so we want to change it into feet because that's what the instructions say. So we have to change the 7 foot and 3 inches to just feet. We do that by doing 7 feet and then 3 inches, make it a fraction, 3 over 12, because there's 12 inches in a foot. So you just do 7 and 3 over 12. You reduce if possible. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So that leaves you with 7 1/4 feet. So now it's all feet. So now you can continue. So you have 2 times, use your formula, 2 times length plus 2 times width. If it's a rectangle, the length is always going to be longer than the width. So you do 2 times 8 plus 2 times 7 1/4. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 7 is 14. And then 2 times 1/4, if you have 1/4 plus 1/4, that actually equals 2/4, which would equal, if you reduce it, that equals 1/2. So 16 plus 14 1/2. Now you add. So plus 16. So that leaves you with P equals 30 1/2 feet. Do not forget to put your measurement down. P equals 30 1/2 feet. So that's how you would find that. Just remember, don't forget to reduce, because that will make it a lot easier for you. So that is number A. P equals 30.5 feet. And we did it this way because it told us to find the biggest measurement. Now on number 2, it says convert to the lesser unit before finding the perimeter of these rectangles. So here, I wrote out the first one. Instead of changing it to yards, it says to change it to the lesser one. So I'm going to change this to feet. First things first, how many feet are in a yard? There are 3 feet in a yard. So I want to make this into feet. So I have to find out. I have 5 yards, and there's 3 feet in a yard, so that's 3 times 5. That equals 15. And then I have 2 extra feet because it was 5 yards and 2 feet. So I add 2, and that makes 17. So your length equals 17 feet. All right, and then now you have to change your width. Also, change your width into to feet, because it said to change it to the lesser measurement. So there's 3 feet in a yard, so you do 3 times 4. That equals 12. So 4 yards equals 12 feet. Now that you know your length and your width, follow the formula. P equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. So our length is 17 feet. 2 times 17 feet plus 2 times 12. 2 times 17. Work it out. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 34 plus 2 times 12 is 24. Add those two together. 34 plus 24 is 58. So your perimeter equals 58, not yards, 58 feet. Okay, don't forget to put your measurement down the way it needs to be. You changed it from yards into feet. So whenever you're working these problems, read the instructions. If it says go to the lesser unit, then you go to the smaller one. If it says go to the higher, then you make it into a fraction, reduce the fraction, and make it into the higher unit. Now the last thing on the page is to find the perimeters of these squares. Okay, so the squares are all around the same thing, so it already has it. You're not converting anything. So it's just 6.5 feet. Remember your formula is the perimeter of a square is P equals 4 times S, because you have 4 sides and all the sides are the same. So P equals 4 times S. Look at your first problem is 6.5 feet. And you're going to do it times 4. So 4 times 6.5 feet. Now the easiest way to do this, because instead of doing a half plus a half plus a half plus a half, make it into a fraction. Remember how we talked about multiplying a whole number times a fraction. You have to make it into a fraction. So make that into an improper fraction. 4 over 1. And then you multiply like you usually do. You want to make the next number also into a fraction. So 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 2. So 4 over 1 times 13 over 2. And then you reduce, cross multiply. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 13 is 26 over 1. So your perimeter equals 26 feet. And that's how you find the perimeter of a square, because it's 4 times the side, but just like you usually do we've learned about multiplying with mixed numbers and with fractions and whole numbers, you make it into a fraction. So 4 over 1, make the mixed number into an improper fraction, and then you multiply like that. All right, so that's how you find it. That's how you find them when there's different measures, and that's how you find the perimeter of a square when it's a fraction. Just remember how you normally would multiply a fraction. So that's all for the day. It's 2:55, and then I believe we're going to be doing a video for 2:57 as well. Hopefully you understood all of that. It's not too confusing. The important thing in this is going to be to read the instructions, because sometimes you need to find the greater unit and sometimes you need to find the lesser unit. So make sure you read that before you just go and do whatever you want to do. So pay attention, ask questions if you need any help, okay? Go ahead and do that page. Bye, guys.